Hey people, welcome back to another review. This is Ian here along with Chris, and today we're digging into Blade Runner 2049.
Duh.
You even got the drone.
Duh. Maybe I can do another one. I don't know.
Well,
Duh.
there it is.
That was okay. Yes.
Third.
Hi.
By the time you hit that third octave, you're completely immersed in it.
Oh my gosh.
Man.
Oh my god. Now, I guess we're gonna get into audio right away, which was awesome.
Yes.
The score, awesome. If you love the score of the original, you're gonna love this one. I mean, maybe I'm getting old, and I am getting a little old, but at some points that actually kind of hurt my ears. Did it hurt yours?
There were a couple points where it was a little piercing, but
Yeah.
I'll say this: piercing, but not Atomic Blonde piercing. With the score, with what that did.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that was a little too.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little too cheeky. Which you're definitely not getting here. That's for sure. You're not gonna. The only thing that you're gonna be like, hey, that sounds like that. No, it's gonna be, oh, hey, there's that song. It's gonna be, yeah, this sounds just like the original one,
Exactly.
except for better.
Exactly.
Yeah, because the audio from the '80s sucked. Just the quality. The quality. I'm not talking about the content. I'm talking about the quality.
Oh no, for sure. Hey, this
Blade Runner.
Yeah.
Darn.
Man. Long. No, I love it. Keep rocking it. You have to do that throughout now, in all three of those octaves that you set the
Maybe.
baseline for it. So hey,
Maybe. Okay.
this-
So yes,
long sought after.
Context.
long sought after here. We're in a run here towards the end of the year. We got a couple more big films to do with Star Wars to cap everything off. But
Yes.
needless to say, this was big. This was, I felt, definitely an epic sci-fi. In full context, it was really nice having the Animatrix style shorts to set this up for us. To sort of put you back into this universe. If you have not checked those out yet, highly recommend you go on YouTube and take a look at the series of shorts, including some more on Dave Bautista, his role, and also there's an anime short that capped these off to tell you a little bit more about the history and lore behind what we're looking at.
That was fun. That was good. I mean, there was a couple times I was like, oh yeah, okay, that fleshed it out pretty good. That gave me a little bit more.
Yeah.
You absolutely don't need to see those though. In fact, one of the things I like about this movie is that you don't even need to see the original.
You don't.
Really. So we're gonna get more into that in the spoilers, obviously. But here we're talking about non-spoilers. Then we're gonna get into the discussion of spoilers after. 24 Blade Runner 2049. This from start to finish was just. I don't think it's hyperbole to say that it was a masterpiece.
I don't think it is either.
This was well done from start to finish.
Yeah.
There's a couple things that I noted, but they're minor. They're so small. But the Ryan Gosling is awesome.
He is.
He puts this movie on his shoulders and he sprints with it.
He does, and it's that's a challenge when you look at the world of Blade Runner and to really play the type of role he has with him, being a detective and everything. It would be so easy, I think, for anyone else to come off as way too drab on this, to sort of pull things down and sort of have it like a low energy piece. But the excitement about that is that sort of juxtaposition of his. He doesn't have to be super high energy when there's so much tension behind every scene he's a part of. And that really just sucks you in. It gets you involved, makes you want to see what's going to happen next. This is a really cool pairing because I feel we have a real solid detective story meets sci-fi meets grander epic. And they marry together beautifully. I think not just as the way the story's told, but as a piece of cinematography. The way these scenes are set up, within the first 5 minutes, less than that, I was utterly sucked in because just seeing a fully imagined, fully realized world like this. Great.
I think what it does a really good job of, and what, when you have these older movies that are revisited, I mean, in an immediate comparison, I would think is Star Wars, is that it does an even better job going from Episode 6, which we saw 30 some years ago, to Force Awakens last year, or 2 years ago. It does a really good job, a much better job of taking you into this world that we know, this world that we've seen, the same world we've seen for 30 plus years, and giving you a really well done, updated version of what it is. Time has passed, but at the same time, it feels like the same thing. And when you're talking visuals from 35 years ago versus now, with nothing in between,
Right.
it does a really good job. The immersion is great.
It is.
Now that being said, a comparison to the first one, it's not. Well, and I agree with you completely. And I don't say this as a downfall, but some people might see it as that. It is not as subtle as the original. The original was subtle almost to its detriment at times. And maybe I have to see it again. Maybe I missed some stuff completely, and I don't know. I think I caught most of the things that was going on in the movie, but maybe not. But it is a perfect evolution of what we knew to what we have now. You're gonna feel like you're in the same world. It's well done with that. Going further into that, going into the visuals, which I think do the heaviest lifting for that as well. Here we are 30 years later, but it still feels very much like the world that we knew from the original Blade Runner. And visually they do that perfectly, I think, as well.
Yeah, picking right up on that about the visuals. One concern that's and rightfully so, especially when you're dealing with anything sci-fi, is you want to take something from the 80s, bring that in 2017. How well does the continuity of the visuals work, especially for the technology? How do you put people back in that world without making it look like, okay, now everything's hyper advanced, or somehow more advanced now than it was supposed to be then, or even weirder when you have a story that's supposed to be going back a few years and telling something. I'm thinking of Star Trek Discovery, for example. We talked about the sort of the disagreement between visuals there, looking back at the original Star Trek, the original series, and then what we have there. It almost feels like the two are disjointed. These are very well synced here. I agree. It's a dystopian, sort of bleak painting. There's lots, gray and drab and terrible weather patterns, but in the same hand, the way that you see the current cities, like the new Los Angeles, like the greater LA area. The way those cities are constructed, the high things you always think of in sci-fi are there. The towering skyscrapers, the flying cars, the incredibly advanced corridors and all the little alleyways and cuts. But in the same hand, that's right alongside a really desperate situation of like different junkyards and then houses stacked up like cordwood. Those who are forced to live in like harder conditions are often the ways they're sort of pushed. But all of that's there, and none of it collides. It makes a direct picture of what's happening, and man, well stated.
Yeah, no, visually it does a good job of telling you about this perfect world where you can have all these things, flying cars and all these, you can have servants and stuff, and everything that we were always taught that we should have out of the future, it's there. And it doesn't preach on this at all, but visually it tells this story while at the same time telling you that this world is destroyed.
Yeah.
It does a really good job of it.
And, that's usually a challenge when you're talking about painting a picture of ruin, how to do that without making the world look like it's completely dysfunctional. In the same hand, you don't want to paint something so pristine to make it look as though people haven't struggled, that there haven't been problems, that there haven't been wars and conflicts. It's rife with that. I think it strikes the right balance in between the two, and we have what we do.
One of the first things I noticed out of this, I think when we were getting introduced to most of the characters, I did not like a single one of them.
Really?
And that's not to say that they were done poorly. I think that's actually a testament to how well they were done. A lot of you have some very flawed characters here from beginning to end. And a lot of that has to do with how you took things from the first movie as well. I don't want to talk about too much of that right now because you have to be very spoiler careful here.
You do,
because there are things all over this movie that, if, we got to be real careful what we say here. So, and a lot of that does have to do directly with some of the cast. So, yeah, but it's just like at the same time, it's like, well, these are really well done, and as they flesh the characters out, you get to understand them more and you get to appreciate them more because of that. But none of them are. Yeah, they all kind of suck.
Yeah, they do.
It's all very much I'm doing what I'm doing, and their motives are well put out.
Right.
But it's like, this kind of sucks that this is happening. But
yeah, and I think you see the consequence of being rigid pretty early on. This idea of preserving structure, preserving. Go ahead.
I was gonna say, you get a little bit more of that if you watch these prequel shorts too.
Definitely.
And I'll go into that with spoilers. I think you probably know what I'm talking about.
Oh yeah.
With that when it comes to the characters and such too. But yeah, but then, and I will be a little spoilerish about this, and because maybe some people care about this, you're probably wondering, when does Harrison Ford come into play? And it isn't until the third act. I think that's safe to say. That's all right to say, isn't it?
It is. You're not giving anything away.
And it kind of sucks because Harrison Ford, as much as I love Harrison Ford, he's one of the best actors I will probably ever see in my life. He doesn't quite pull this stuff off like you want him to. You know what I mean?
I hear you.
But it's still awesome. He's Deckard, and you even still see Harrison Ford being the actor that he is. You still even see little Deckard mannerisms that you would expect to see from a caliber of actor like him.
Yeah.
That's well done. But if you're coming in this thinking you're going to see Deckard Part 2, you are, but you're not.
Right.
It's not as bad. Again, going to Star Wars as a comparison, it's not 30 seconds of Luke Skywalker and then that's it. No, he's in there. He's in the plot. But you're not going to see him for a bit, and that may upset some people. I thought it worked fine. Like I said, Ryan Gosling puts this thing on his shoulders and just. He's the man with this movie. He deserves all the props.
And I thought this worked well because even though this isn't, as you said, Deckard Part 2, this very much tells a succession story. Not a succession as much as passing a torch, quote unquote, or like wink to wink, detective to detective. More about the consequences and the events that follow after Deckard's choices. After the events of the original Blade Runner that unfold, and what that's led to. In the same hand, what secrets are people try to preserve in that this idea of, again, keeping a sustained order while there's still a lot of subterfuge and everything happening behind the scenes. I think that's very alluring. Most of the time, when you have like subterfuge and black ops tales and sabotage and things like that, those narratives are held, at least to me, it feels it's one or the other. I'm going to example, Mission Impossible. Here's where we're really following the whole black ops subterfuge agent element. The actual world, the common events, they exist there, but we're so laser focused on the black ops stuff that the other things kind of blur. In the same hand, I think it's really easy to take a film and focus on the outside so much where you kind of ignore the underlying things that are happening. But no, it's great. Here you have forces operating from many, many sides, both sides of the coin. There's a whole lot happening behind the scenes. And the fun part about that, it frames a detective story well. Begins as a race to close a case, which grows into, obviously, something that could threaten society itself. Both sides are looking for the answer to that, either how to proliferate it, either how to completely stop and destroy it, but they play well in a larger world, and I think the characters who pick up on it, who notice that, those who don't, and where the rest of that goes, it all really creates, I think, just a solid narrative. Each piece fits and works.
Yeah.
So,
we've touched things with the audio, visually, with the storytelling, with the actors.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really think we can talk about anything more without starting to spoil some things.
No, you can't. You gotta. This is one where you have to start really digging and getting specific on, because It's fun. The one thing I do want to take another quick comment on is just Ridley Scott producing the direction in general that we have here. This is really him to form. In terms of not just how the story is told, but the way in which a lot of these problems are laid out, and I think you're caused to not just think about something. We say it about sci-fi movies all the time. Oh, that points at some larger social issue. You're okay, yeah. I mean, there's a lot of thought-provoking stuff here, but in the same hand, there's some flat-out disturbing things. And Scott marries that so well alongside the story. It's disturbing, but it's not distastefully so. It's enough to shatter your sensibility of something that you think is going to happen or that you think the way something should be, but it shakes you up, it jars you just enough to pull you back into it, and you have to see that next part of it. That's awesome, and I don't see many directors able to do that quite in the way he does. So
no, he's. You can tell, even though he wasn't the director for this one, he produced it. Right. He's got his fingerprints all over it.
He does.
This was just, I mean, this was well cared for and well done. And yeah, he redeems himself. I've been saying it since since March. Since Alien Covenant, that he's got one more chance. All right. You got it. You're back up there. You did good.
Fair enough.
I was really worried after Alien Covenant, but all right, you deserve it. You're back up near the tippy top.
Good stuff.
So, 1 out of 10 replicants.
Oh, just overall rating?
Yeah, overall rating.
Decimals or no?
You can use a quarter of a replicant.
Yeah, cool. I'm gonna take a quarter, cut one in half too, and just prop that up. In my book, this is getting a 9.5.
Wow.
This is up there for me. And I didn't think I was gonna say it was that high. And me personally, again, my favorite film, more modern film, was Inception. And that was the only other thing I'd really place in that tier. I went and saw Inception multiple times. I could see myself going to see this multiple times, but I place this in the same ranking. I feel it's a masterpiece.
Yeah, no, it is. I've been trying to decide between. I think I'm going to split the difference. I'm going to go 9.25.
Fair enough.
I've been between 9 and 9.5. There's a couple things here they could have done a little bit better, but there's not much. Not much.
Right.
In fact, like I said, the only reason so many things stuck out, they were tiny, but they stuck out because everything else was so well done.
Right. Couldn't agree more.
All right. So there it is. Go see this one. If you're only going to see a few movies this year, go see this one. You've been holding off. Go see this one. Blade Runner 2049. So it was awesome when Chewbacca showed up.
Yeah. I was thinking more of the part when the Langoliers started eating the ground. That was really awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, and then when Harrison Ford put on the Indiana Jones hat.
Oh yeah, and then the boulder came back. Yeah,
and the whip came out of nowhere. Where that came from. Okay, so we're gonna start spoilers.
Actual spoilers.
Yep. None of that's real. God, I hope not. I hope you didn't believe me. Okay, 3, 2, 1, spoilers. Okay. There's so many things that hit me in this one. It's like, oh, that's the first thing I'm going to bring up. And I was like, no, that's the first thing I'm going to bring up.
Yeah.
But I think definitively it pissed me off. And then like 10 seconds later, I loved it. You still don't know if Decker's a replicant or not.
Isn't it great?
You still don't know.
Isn't it great?
I figured, at first I'm like, oh, fuck you.
Yeah.
That was it. And then I'm like, you know what? No, it works.
Oh, man.
Then my first reaction was, that's just not right. Because they're leading. See, he's a replicant. And they're not just telling you. And then, it's like, oh, he's definitely a replicant. And then they're like, maybe he's not a replicant. I'm like, God damn it.
Yeah.
You got me. Is it so? You felt the same way about it?
I did. I wavered on this, and there were some things that were implied, not implied. When he, near the end, when he's just swinging away at Kay, Ryan Gosling, and he's just trying to calm him down. Look, I just want to talk to you. I'm not. Go ahead.
And he's punching him.
Yeah.
And he's moving him a bit, but it seems like, is he just, is he testing him?
Exactly.
Does he mean to try to hurt him? And then it's like, well, you made him bleed a little bit. Like, oh my God.
Yeah. I think it's great. This is that one element of the film that sort of reminds me of the spinning top from Inception.
Mm-hmm.
You can read into that, you can read out of it. You can go both ways with where the story was, but I think it's a good way to just sort of frame it with that lingering question. I don't feel that's cheap at all.
And they do such a good job with that in framing it for you as well, because I mean, up until that point, and even for the rest of the movie, so much. I mean, which is obvious. This movie's about replicants. It's telling a story about these replicants, and They have feelings, even if they've been programmed and they've been taught to be a certain way.
Right.
They're beyond. In fact, this, obviously the focus of the movie is going beyond what they've been told that they need to do, going beyond what they've been built to do.
Right.
And which was the whole thing. I saw somebody who put it perfectly. I can't remember what the source was anymore, and I apologize for that. But the first movie was about whether or not this human is a replicant or not. And the second movie is all about whether this robot is a human or not.
Yeah, a really, really good inversion. And the two are deconstructed and reconstructed so often alongside. I think that's great. Down to points of the cinematography where you're, towards Act 3, shortly before we're introduced to Harrison Ford, we have these ruins, and sort of like this nuclear waste and these huge monoliths. And this idea of, this sort of deconstructed humanity from all, these huge statues and stuff. And in the same hand, you start to really look at, does that line blur? The other thing I even highlight too is my opinion, one of the most creative sex scenes ever. Very, very, very inventive. This idea of, a hologram sinking to, an actual like replicant, and really just sort of creating like this weird duality there, kind of really completely blurring that line of where you cross, how you relate to an artificial intelligence, how you relate to replicant, how multiple replicants relate to each other. It's really cool when you can explore a really complicated, kind of twisted question like that, and not make something really just so overtly sexual that you take everyone completely out of that moment. It's done really, really well. And I thought it played into the rest of the film well. I was pretty impressed. So,
yeah, well, I mean, part of what I was, touching on before was that, the character Kay, I don't like this guy. And they, at first, and they give you a lot of reason not to, especially when they kill off Dave Bautista's character right away.
Right.
Who is really the only good guy here.
Right.
And he's gone.
Yeah.
And it's just like, that kind of sucks. I was expecting to see more out of him because, I mean, the prequel builds him up. He was at one point he had done some really bad things,
right?
But he's for decades he's been trying to live a peaceful life and be a good man, and it's like boom, gone.
Yep.
And so it's like, oh man, this guy Kay, I don't like this guy. Look at he just killed Dave Bautista, and you can tell he's so I guess for lack of a better term, he's so robotic.
Yeah.
And I'm really not liking it. Then when they get him home and they show the relationship with the AI, and I mean, then it starts, he starts to get fleshed out a bit. But it's like, I don't like this guy, but I'm starting to understand this guy.
And even then, he's placed within a greater structure automatically. This guy doesn't run on his own autonomously off the rails until you see, okay, why does he do what he does? What is the structure kind of keeping him in place? And this idea. As well, that his superiors, especially his main superior officer, is specifically making that statement of, what we do is preserve order, period, regardless. Doesn't matter any of the surrounding circumstances, like things like this case, after they discover it about finding this, miracle replicant child, things like that will break the world. Like, it doesn't matter if it's the truth, can't let it happen. Can't get out there. Erase it, burn it, bury it, do whatever you have to do. We have to keep the current order. And, automatically we look at kind of where that places K, struggling to be that, do his duty, stick to his guns, what he's supposed to be, programmed to do, as opposed to how that starts to kind of unravel once he finds out some of the actual facts. As he starts to, realize that, well, wait, is everything I know, especially my memories, are they really plants? Did this happen? Coming through in the area of his dreams to find the exact same object that he had imagined, placing, it starts to throw his world to a complete tailspin. And right. I think that's where Gosling really, really steps up here and sort of brings that whole duality play. And no, it's done well. Go ahead.
I was going to say, on that topic, I have three things that really stuck out for me, and two of them have to do with the plot device of this movie. Mm-hmm. Well, I love the story. I love how they did this, but, I don't know if they have plans for a sequel. I haven't actually checked it out, but it felt a little forced. It felt a little too convenient that he just so happens to come across, this whole replicant child thing, and it just might be him. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And it just might be him. Like, how was it ever? How could it have ever been planned out that he's going to be the replicant that's going to come across this? Was it even planned out that he would? I mean, was it planned out that he would start this revolution? We don't even necessarily know if it does, but there's certainly a group of people that wants that to happen.
Oh yeah,
and they say like this was going to happen someday, and it felt a little too convenient, a little too forced. I mean, I don't know, a lesser movie could not have pulled that off without that really just kind of sneaking up the movie at least a little bit the whole time.
Yeah. But I think what's exciting with that is there's so many things that are temporary, that are discarded in this world that can change on a dime, or something that you thought was a kind of fixed point just completely flips. And that idea, knowing that something in the next instant can change, or your whole view of that world can change, that fact didn't necessarily have to remain permanent. And if anything, I thought that was pretty good. It's like, hey, okay, maybe that could be the case, but I agree with you. It really feels way too straightforward and way too convenient. There's got to be more to that. And
maybe that's one of those subtle things that I missed.
Yeah. I really think it is, especially the way they pull you in between the interplay between Kay and also the researcher, the contractor who creates memories, who of course turns out to be our main focus, to be the Singularity, the daughter that Harrison Ford's searching for, which is great. That there were some great subtle hints at that first meeting, especially when she reviews his mind, his memory, her reaction to that you may not have read in full until later in the movie, which was really well done. And that made you again start to think, wait, is what I might have been thinking a little too convenient, and is this going a different direction after all?
Right. So let me get the last thing that I didn't like. I don't know if this was glaringly obvious to you too, but near the end when he's fighting with the replicant, I didn't even catch her name. She was an angel. I know that she's an angel replicant. I don't remember her name though. He's fighting her at the end, and that fight goes into the water. That crystal clear see-through seawater, which in itself is kind of weird, but at the same time, she just gutted him.
Yeah.
And there's no blood in that water, and I mean that was just obvious to me. Like, didn't she just run a knife up his stomach about 3-4 inches?
Yeah. Shouldn't
that water be red around him?
Yeah.
Was that obvious to you too?
Yeah. That kind of struck me as that's why I started to question. I'm like, wait, did that go as deep as I thought? Did he catch that in some way I just wasn't seeing? Yeah, a lot.
And I think maybe as a storytelling perspective, it would have been a little bit cool if that water was still just as see-through as it was, but it started going red.
Yeah.
But again, maybe I missed something. I don't know.
Right.
But yeah, as far as negatives, that's all I've got.
Yeah.
Now, personally, feeling I hated the fact that Dave Bautista's character got out so quick. I thought,
Yeah, he was that was faster than I thought was gonna happen.
it was 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Like, boom, here you go. Yeah, I think you rounded up a lot of this really well. Jared Leto was completely serviceable as for his role.
Yeah.
He was neither like, oh my god, nor was he.
Yeah.
He did a really good job. Yeah, let's talk about Deckard. Let's talk about that for a minute.
Yeah.
I know he's doing his best, and I wouldn't have wanted to see anyone else playing that role. But it's a little hard watching Harrison Ford, isn't it?
Yeah, I look at that and I try to put myself in the frame of, okay, somebody who's been out in, pseudo radioactive area, kind of isolated, by himself, should have a kind of awkward clip to him, even after everything he had been through, despite all of it. I think what sort of made that more passable to me, and yeah, I agree, there were sort of there was a bit of a lurching struggle in that, but I thought that was fine, considering his time there, considering like the background, considering his regret and everything else, and like there's gonna be a sort of stiffness there.
Yeah.
I think to that end, especially as he starts to get a little bit more life in him later on, once he realizes he'll actually have a chance to meet his daughters and things change. But yeah, again, this is something that would not fly as well in another movie that I would personally definitely have more of a gripe for. But I think just based on the larger context, for me at least, I thought that was passable.
Love the dog.
Same.
I love the line with the dog when Kay asks him if the dog's real, and I mean this is just what set it up also perfectly. And Deckard's like, I don't know, you ask him. You ask him if he's real, and I thought that was great. It's like, all right, there you go. That's in that. I think that really that puts you into Deckard more than anything, because I mean his whole first movie was the whole struggle about that, and you're told right away, okay, he's come to terms with whatever this is. Because if I remember correctly, he does not even know.
He doesn't.
If he's a replicant.
You're right.
Yeah, I know there's been different versions, but I think I watched the final cut a few months ago, and I believe that's part of the question as well. Like he may not even know.
Right.
So let me ask you, complete opinion.
Yeah.
Do you think Deckard's a replicant?
Oh man. Okay. I'm gonna frame this. Right, give it in full. The scene that I always come back to was, I think this was like the final cut version or the original or whatever, but Deckard had this daydream, and it was like there was like that running unicorn would sort of confirm the idea that his memories were actually known as to Graf, and there was like a sign of passage, sort of like transfer there, and I think to that, and I say well. Maybe that's actually coincidence, and maybe that ambiguity is there on purpose. But that brings me to where I stand with him. With the amount of imagination there and everything else, I personally, through all the ambiguity, I see him more as human, and I don't think that necessarily shatters the whole idea of this singularity, of this miracle child that was born. It's amazing enough that a replicant could even have a child. And I think what's so good about this dynamic is done so through a human half or done so through a non-human half. It's something that's still world-breaking. But hey, there's honestly evidence both ways. I could be flat on my face about that. Just my thoughts. And it's tough too, because that one little tidbit stands out to me. But man, I didn't watch the original Blade Runner right before going into this. It's been years since I've seen that. So there's definitely a few things that are hazy, and I actually do want to go back now and watch and refresh myself. So
It's fun. The Final Cut's good, which, by the way, this is based off of the Final Cut. So if people are like,
Right.
"Well, how's this sequel compared, continuity wise with the other one?" It's all based on the Final Cut. So if you weren't a big fan of how the Final Cut actually ended, sorry.
Yeah.
That's what it's based off of. Yeah, I lean towards him being human too. The biggest reason is that he's still alive.
Right.
Replicants back then had a short shelf life with.
Right.
Which, I mean, you see with what was her name, Lauren?
Yeah.
No, was it Lauren?
Well, Lauren, wait, his
love interest, his replicant from the first one.
Oh, frick.
Well, you know who I'm talking about.
I do.
Though.
I'm with you.
Yeah, I mean, she's dead, and she clearly should be dead. Although I forget, and I think they mentioned it briefly, how in the prequel or in the movie, how Dave Bautista's managed to stay alive as well, because he's from that same era.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. So and I've gone through this back and forth over the day. Because obviously, I loved how they worked off this. I mean, they actually built into the first one a little bit more by saying, did you think it was just random that you had met her? It's because to be honest with you, I always thought it was a bit too convenient in the first one how the two of them end up together.
Right.
And it's like this felt a little too convenient and felt a little forced. It's like all of a sudden, this character has this attraction to a replicant. I thought it was a little weird.
Yeah.
So now that I'm saying that, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's a lead towards he's human.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
But it's good ambiguity. It's good.
Yeah, they did that well. And I think that might piss off a few people. There are probably a bit of the fan base who are going expecting an answer.
Right.
No, you don't get it. You don't know. I think the ending was a little short. I would have loved to have seen just a little bit more of a moment with him and his daughter.
Yeah, I agree. That was kind of a little short. And by the way, I'm sorry, it just popped to me. It's Rachel you're thinking about.
That was Rachel. Sorry,
my bad. No. I blanked out too. But no. As far as all the build to getting a chance to meet his daughter, and it felt like it was such a brief scene with him sort of being overwhelmed, coming to the point of finally being able to say. Maybe something he's always had in his mind, or being able to converse with her, and then we cut. We don't get the chance to hear that. It's just sort of a climactic moment. We're expecting that, and we really don't get a conversation. So.
Right, nothing.
No.
Do you think that his daughter really has an immunity deficiency, or do you think that she was put in there for protection, or maybe both?
Both, and I say that because she pretty accurately recounts her time on the outside as to why she had to get placed where she was. The point was, it wasn't just a label slapped on her that, hey, you have this, get out of here. She really did seem to have, at least from what she was talking about, have problems on the outside before she got placed where she was, and she clearly recognized, yeah, I should be here. I get it, why I can't go on, or like why I can't leave off world. But in the same hand, anyone who would even have a hint of that dark secret, you'd want to really keep her on the fringe as much as you could. So I think both. The other reason what I feel supports that is an important scene when Kay is reviewing the DNA. And he finds the strands and realizes that, well, okay, this can't be. You cannot have two people that have the exact same coding, who have the exact same DNA strands. And of course, there was a bit of a switch here. This led him to believe more that things are pointing at him, whereas they were still really pointing at her. I think in context of sort of a miracle birth like this, to me it wouldn't be surprising if there was some sort of deficiency, something off with her genetically.
No, I'm with you on that. Now let me play devil's advocate with you, though.
Yeah.
Because at the beginning of that movie, we are shown that area where she was... where Rachel was pregnant and had that child, that's a dirty ass area. That's a filthy ass area, and we get that picture of Dave Bautista's character holding the baby next to that tree, right out in that dirty, filthy area.
Right.
So wouldn't that have killed her right away?
Well, I don't know if it would have killed her per se, but wouldn't. I mean, if she had like a reaction to that, they would have had to have had a reason to place her there in the first place. I'd want to say that could have been the very trigger.
Not to mention, gonna interrupt you.
Yeah, go ahead.
No, not to mention that memory in that orphanage is hers.
Correct.
She lived that.
Right.
How can she be doing that all sick as shit?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, that brings you to a conversation of when autoimmune diseases emerge. And that's kind of sticky topic. It would be like saying, well, they all follow a similar rubric or like time frame. Heck, I think it's difficult to say that at birth, boom, okay, automatic problems. Oh, I'm dead.
That's how Bubble Boy is. Didn't you know this is canon from Bubble Boy?
No.
Did you know that?
No.
Same universe.
Same universe.
Yeah. Same universe from the Seinfeld episode with Bubble Boy.
You're just full of facts.
Yep.
Aren't you?
Yeah. But no, I don't know how it works. But I don't think she needs to be in there. I think she was placed in there, and she was told that.
Okay.
To bleed it, because not to mention she was also put on the run, and she was hidden for quite a while. And you can't be hiding autoimmune, baby. You can't be doing that. No, but so I love how they do all this stuff with this movie, though. This is fun. Kay, do you think he's dead?
Oh, I was waiting for him to sign off in that scene on that sort of profile shot of his. That sort of peripheral.
He looks pretty dead.
He was looking pretty dead. Man, to see how he lives through that was just I don't see it. Of course, we didn't actually see him die per se, but I think he dies.
I think he died too, but and again, this movie does this. I mean, they make him out to be pretty important. Like I said, in my opinion, it at least appeared that it was very convenient. But he was the baby that I think filed that shared the DNA, right?
For Kay himself,
yeah,
he did, but he was the fake. Because
right, but that's what I'm saying is there's pretext to him being something important, being something special.
Right.
Not the baby, obviously, but
right.
He's still there's a lot of toying around with him being something special, though.
No, I completely agree with that. And when you start to think of that, it makes it even more interesting. Going back to what we were talking about earlier about his character being pulled into different poles of order. Again, he's following this structure of order, trying to preserve, while at the same time there's these forces that are realizing, hey, this guy's pretty important. Let's use him to destabilize this very thing, because, hey, replicants, we deserve freedom, we deserve our own area, our own society and everything, so let's debase that. So I find that great. He's caught dead in the middle of that struggle, and it's, do you preserve, do you destroy? Do you listen either? Do you try to take some kind of path on your own? That is a great rock and a hard spot to put any character.
Were you also reminded at the scene where the hookers in the apartment, was that very reminiscent for you from the first movie as well with Daryl Hannah?
Brought back memories. Yes, it did.
Yeah.
In fact, that scene, I'm making sure I'm thinking back to the right one. Was this the one where Harrison Ford slammed it was almost kind of like a threat of violence, the way he prevented Rachel from escaping. She tried to leave. Mm-hmm. And he was just like really forceful and didn't let her.
Yeah, kind of a pushy ass.
Pretty much. Yeah, we're thinking of the same scene. And I was really wondering how they were going to frame that or make the interplay, but again, I'm pointing at that scene as being really well done. In fact, really really tactfully done. Again, blurring that whole line between what's AI, how much influence should or should not, how close a relationship do you try to forge with something that's actually non-existent, but then when that non-existent thing tries to occupy an existent shell, Loved that. Loved the heck out of that. Even the way she tried to sync the sort of like four hands, like forearms. Like there was always that weird like after image. Like that just was masterful, in my opinion.
That weirdo anime side of you really loved that whole thing, didn't you?
I don't think that has anything to do with anime.
No,
but cool.
I don't know. No, it was neat. Yeah, it was neat.
It was cool.
Gaff. Yeah, do you remember Gaff?
Yeah.
Do you remember the guy by name?
Yeah.
Yeah, unicorn guy.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, unicorn origami guy. That was cool. I actually wasn't even expecting to get kind of a resolve to that. He kind of just stalks Deckard in the first one,
right?
And kind of preludes that he's going to come after him, and then kind of find out here actually it kind of helps him. Kind of hey, we were loners and we hated messing with people, and we just we helped each other out. We helped each other out get away from other people. That was interesting. I was not expecting to get a resolve to that whole thing.
No, I wasn't either.
Come to find out he's his buddy.
Yeah,
like, as much as they get to be buddies.
Just hanging out in the home, man. That was another good scene, by the way. I love in this broken dystopian world with all these hyper advanced things, you still have, really 90s looking, 80s looking, basic structures with like radiators and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the little things like that sort of shows how there's still parts of society that haven't fully integrated. Like this isn't just a super high-end circuitry like everything. No, there's still some places that are like very behind. And yeah, that is another way to frame up that scene. So good stuff. But yeah.
So do you think that K was something special or no? Or do you think he was just a replicant?
I think he was. I say that only because of his sort of his closeness to this whole situation. I think a lot of that was feels at least a lot of this was forced on him. He's, he has this link that he doesn't know about, kind of placed him in this situation he didn't really expect to have like any say in the first place. And I think if anything, he is looked at as the trigger, the catalyst. If he doesn't have to be actually catalyst is a bad term. More the trigger to the events that happen. That you need a Molotov cocktail to start it. And what better way to have someone from the inside who looks like they're just regular, completely obeying, completely compliant replicant doing their job with the police force. So,
all right, yeah,
man.
Well, I think we've run the gauntlet with this.
I think we did. There's a lot of ground to cover here. A lot of fantastic, I think, questions asked. It's just some good, solid, thought-provoking stuff. The good thing about this is that you're left to linger, but you aren't. There's plenty to think about here, but you're given just enough time to ponder a point before you're brought back into something else larger in the plot. So, if you are down for sci-fi detective stories, another great follow-up to the original Blade Runner, I think you got it here. And I think the cool part this time, it's not going to take as much time as the original Blade Runner did to become that like cult classic status. Like if I recall, when Blade Runner in the original one first launched, it wasn't like a massive success. It really took off later. I think the more people really...
it was moderate. It barely made money.
Yeah, it didn't make a huge splash, but I think it really created following behind it, and obviously enough to bring what we have today. So it's really cool seeing this now come out of the gate pretty strong. Cool.
Do you think we'll get a third?
We're open for it. I am honestly fine with this just stopping here. It's fine. Like I don't think Scott and company they don't have to say anymore. This is fine. This is okay. The possibility, yes. Frankly, I think it's very possible we could see it again.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I think this is okay the way it is. At the same time, if this does as well as people are expecting, I could totally see them making a horrible third part.
Yeah, which is my worry. my worry. You know, there's some things that are better left in their moment where they are. Again, going back to Inception, part of why I enjoyed that movie so much. I mean, you could argue, you could go and make a separate story that, wait, it was all really a dream. You know, let's pay him back to what actually happened. Well, here's what happened to his family after. Well, here's the later story. No, it doesn't do any of that. It has enough open ambiguity to sort of put you back in the loop of everything you've been told, but it leaves it on that point, and it just makes a statement, and I can thoroughly respect that. I don't think everything needs a trilogy or, you know, 4 movies or 5 movies to explain that. You know, I think it's enough of a beat to come back and make the statement this did, following up in the original Blade Runner. You normally don't see, I think, a sequel this strong, and I think they are more than fine if they left it in its lane.
No, agreed. All right.
Stuff, but there you have it, folks. Those are our thoughts. That's our review on Blade Runner 2049. We said it a million times. Hey, you're not a moviegoer, get out and see this one. It is well worth it. And dig into whatever
you said movie of the year for you.
Right now, yeah. Out of anything I've seen this year, this is it. Do
you think that'll stay there? We've got some big ones coming up yet. I mean, you got Thor and Justice League and Star Wars yet.
There's a couple. Here's the thing, though. Star Wars, in my opinion, is going to be the only possible contender. This in my book, because I really see Blade Runner outside of just an action movie, outside of like a Marvel movie, or out of the normal context. When I see a movie like this, it sort of takes a new level. I'm not just looking at it as just a genre anymore, how well it operates in those bounds. It's the cinematography. Like, this is making a statement. This is a piece of art. And when you start walking that line, I think the narrative, the art style, direction, the story itself, and the characters all take a life of their own that deserve very separate, examinations. Marvel movies are amazing, but I can't see myself judging Thor next to this. They're two different categories to me, like too far different for me to put those.
Agreed.
Yeah, to put those side by side. Star Wars, maybe. I'm gonna see. Honestly, I doubt Star Wars. I'll quite be able to put Star Wars in the same vein. This is probably gonna be it for me. Not lying. So.
I want to tip my hat to this one too. Up until now, it's been, and again, my views on how well a movie has been done, it hasn't even matched up with my favorite so far this year. Especially with how I run my mouth about the genre, Logan has stood on top.
Yeah.
Despite all the other movies. Now we haven't seen Dunkirk though.
Right.
And we should have done Dunkirk, and we probably should have seen the Emoji Movie. There's so much good in that. This one, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm definitely leaning towards the 2. But yeah, you've got enough going on with episode 8 to where I think that might be able to do it. But I have a feeling this one's going to end up being movie of the year for me as well.
Yeah, it's artistry. I come back to, again, it reminds me we were talking about our favorite show, about some of our number one superhero movies.
Oh, God.
My best one. I'm not going where you think I am. Relax. When we were talking about the Nolan films, I think you have something really special when you start to transcend the genre. And when you're seeing a movie like that, and you know when you stepped into that territory, and automatically I think you start applying some different rails to that. You're seeing that film different because, okay, well, you did it. You stepped out of the screen at me. So I think for pure action, I might think of, Thor, maybe measure that somewhere closer to Logan or something like that. We'll see. It'll be awesome in and of itself. But this is a unique beast.
I just realized that without even meaning to do it, we both just completely dismissed Justice League out of that whole conversation, even though I initially brought it up. It's like, we're not talking about that anymore, are we?
Justice League,
Watch, we're both wrong.
Isn't it? I would love if we are. I really would.
No, because then we'd have to hear about Warner Brothers changing direction again.
Well, in light of Justice League. Because that did so well.
He's so freaking knee-jerk reaction on everything.
Yeah.
It's so ridiculous. Martin Scorsese is not going to get his Joker movie now. We didn't think this thing was going to break the 1 billion mark, but now that it has, you're going to get nothing but crappy multi-superhero movies from this point on. You know what Blade Runner 2049 was missing though?
Huh.
If Punisher would have showed up and just shot the shit out of her.
I was waiting for you to say that. I'm seeing this Punisher theme of yours, just go and murder the cast and a lot of things. I mean, Chris, you can only have him so many times. I mean, he's gonna kill the Inhumans. He's gonna wipe out everybody in Gifted, and now he's gonna come over to Blade Runner. I mean, what is this guy, Cable?
Man, he's Frank Castle. He's the Punisher. Justice must be served.
Oh Lord!
Then you find out he's a replicant.
Plot twist.
And then you find out there's like a room full of all kinds of different clones of him, and that's how he's been able to do this all this time. That's how he can be in all these different universes and all this different time, and that's how he's pulling it off.
But the main one we're finding, he gets the War Machine suit, and then just goes another killing spree, and then that's it.
Yep.
All right, cool.
He starts with Iron Man. Because Iron Man's going to be after Punisher wearing one of his suits. Iron Man's going to be after that.
Of course.
Yeah, I don't think so. Oh, yeah, we're way off the rails.
No, hey, all in good fun. That's going to do it for us, people. You have fun with this. Hope you tune in and enjoy it. Thank you for listening to us. You can tune right into our channel to catch our normally timed show. I promise I'm not doing the normal send-off. Promise I'm not doing the normal send-off. Yeah, I know.
We have a closer now.
We do. But catch our weekly episode of Jagged Edge. But take it easy. Thank you.
Yeah. Just watch out for all of our stuff. Okay.
Please do.
Best ending ever.
Peace. Hey people, thank you for tuning into this episode and taking a listen. If you like our content, if you like what you're listening to, there anything we go over, hey, please, we would not only love to hear more from you, but it's great if you could throw some support. You can subscribe right below. Also, you can toss us a line anytime. That's ksawmedia@gmail.com. Of course, you can tune in for our channel anytime for movie reviews, game reviews, a lot of random wacky stuff. Who knows what you'll hear. And of course, our episode each week where we're bringing the nerdiest things we can find, dig up, and maybe not find. Maybe the stuff that just drops in our laps. But anyway, hey, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for listening. We hope to hear from you again later. Take care.